Social anxiety. It's keeping people away from one another. It makes it super scary to ask people out. But it also makes it difficult just to hang out and talk. It's preventing doing activities together for fun. And it's in the way of peace and cooperation. There's also social phobia, where people have great difficulty getting out of the house or even answering the phone. I used to suffer from fear of contamination, so I have some notion of how terrifying it can be for people suffering from super high anxiety that makes it difficult to go outside. If you're affected by something like this, see my video on anxiety. The link is in the description. I hope it will help. So for phobia, I think the cause and mechanism is similar, but in this video I'm talking of the less severe form of just social anxiety. How do we free ourselves from its grip? What's even causing it? There's one big factor I see that might surprise you. It certainly surprised me to see how much it's been affecting me. It's a fear I noticed in myself last summer, and a large part of it is gone now after working on it. And as a result, it's easier to have a real, meaningful exchange with people, and that's really satisfying. It's not completely gone, and I'm continuing to work on it. I wish someone had told me about this and helped me understand what was going on, so I could have been free of it sooner. So I want to tell you about it, in case you too have something like that, so you can free yourself too, and enjoy your life a whole lot more. It was such a wonderful surprise, a few weeks after becoming aware of this fear and working on it with role plays, to suddenly notice that when I ran into people in the street, wherever, there was something new happening. I was no longer afraid of people. Instead, I felt curious about what it would be if, instead of having been born with my body, I had been born with their body. I noticed I was wondering what it's like to live life the way they do. How do they see life? How do they see themselves in life? And how do they see others? It's fascinating to think of how my perspective on many things would probably be different if I had been born looking like that person. Now, when I see someone, this curiosity is often what comes up first. It makes me want to talk with people, whether male or female or in between, and whatever age and shape and size and ethnicity, and find out how they are going through life. And it's not just that I hear things that enlarge my view of life and ideas for interesting new things to do. It's also that just talking with people and discovering what their world is like has become an interest in itself. This is such a change from what it was before. When I met anybody, I wasn't aware of it, but I felt tense, afraid that somehow bad things could happen if I talked to people. Whenever I saw a man, my attention went to watching myself. Am I making the right impression? How's my posture? Do I look confident enough? Are my clothes okay? Do I look how I should for this situation? What is this person going to think of me? And how should I behave? What type of person should I pretend to be so everything goes right? And when I saw a woman, same thing, plus more worries if this was someone I found attractive. Not when I was married, but before and since. Do I look good enough? What should I say? What should I not say? What if she seems to like me? What do I do then? What if I take the risk and then it turns out this is not the right person for me? Should I talk to her now, or is it better to pretend I'm not interested? I was so afraid all my attention went into looking for what could go wrong and into playing a role in order to try to stay safe. And I didn't have the attention left for taking in what I was seeing and hearing of this person and sensing what responses are evoked in me and being able to calmly consider that and choose what I want to do or say or ask that could be more fun and interesting for both people, hopefully, than just going away. So this is a form of social anxiety. Being around people triggers anxiety, and I become self-conscious and tense. And I'm so focused on figuring out what's safe enough or not to do that I lose track of all that I would be curious about if I was calm, which would make conversation easy and interesting. It's so much more satisfying when all that pressure isn't there, and I can be naturally curious and at ease, seeing people as equals who are just as well disposed towards me as I am towards them. And I can simply ask them what I want to know and go from there. Often I still get scared, and once I notice, it takes me a minute or two to calm down and get into that relaxed state where I'm curious. So where does this anxiety come from? In my case, this is a milder form of the same fears I was talking about in videos 2 years ago. Even though I had mostly been freed of the major part of these fears, this smaller part remained. It took me another year to find this manifestation of them. Because I was so used to feeling tense when meeting people, it seemed like the only possible way to be. I had no experience of feeling any other way. There was nothing to compare against to realize that a change was possible, that I didn't have to feel so tense. It's the same fears from childhood when, if I didn't behave how I thought my dad wanted, I feared he would get angry and beat me and possibly I'd die. And I was also afraid that if I didn't behave how my mom wanted, she'd abandon me and I'd die. Both of these fears push me to believe I'm not good enough, which is another symptom of having been in a situation like that. I look forward to more and more people freeing themselves from this type of fear and no longer passing it on to new generations. I see how this will improve communication and solidarity between people everywhere, across current barriers of gender, age, shape and size, ethnicity, culture, etc. Here's how I figured this was holding me back. It was 3 things. I'm hoping this is useful to you. The first is that a friend who's often been right about this sort of thing told me I still had problems to work on after I made those videos 2 years ago. This motivated me to keep looking for what I wasn't seeing, thinking, okay, I don't see it, but there's a good chance there is something. She also encouraged me to get help from a therapist for symptoms like people-pleasing. I did that, even though it was difficult to find someone who could help me. With the first therapist I chose, after interviewing 4 or 5 others, we didn't find anything after 3 sessions. Then, almost a year later, once I had found the problem, I interviewed more therapists, and finally found one who was effective in helping me explore and resolve the problem. We did role plays. This is Christopher Witman. I recommend him, and there's a link in the description to contact him. I'm also very grateful to my friend, of course. By the way, if you see me doing something that could point to a problem I'm not aware of, please let me know. The second thing was that during that year, I kept writing down my reactions in my daily journal, each time I noticed them. And then I thought about what had happened, and I talked about it with friends and family. I kept writing about the times when I noticed I had been afraid, and I kept trying to figure out where the fear had come from. The third thing is the work I do as an unlicensed therapist myself, listening to people and trying my best to understand what they're going through. This empathic listening is the most effective therapy I know of. And it's absolutely critical that I remain calm while doing this, because if I get afraid, my attention drifts away and then I can no longer follow what's going on with the other person. Practicing maintaining this calm more and more made it possible to notice when I lost this calm outside of work in everyday life. So, for you, if you're frustrated by some sort of social anxiety, or however else you call it, that makes you uncomfortable around people, especially people you're attracted to and you'd like to find it easy to talk with, I'm hoping this video points you towards what to look for and gives you an idea of how much better it could be and how to get there. To recap, feeling tense in social situations to the point it often prevents you from interacting with people how you would like is not natural. That's important to know because if you don't know there is a problem, you can't set out to fix it. The next step is knowing that it can come from fears that developed in childhood to protect us from attacks or other potentially life-threatening behavior of caretakers, such as abandoning us. Then there's body-based techniques you can turn to, such as Peter Levine's somatic experiencing, that help people get out of the trauma spiral without knowing exactly what caused it. That's what he says. I'm learning about this, but until I have seen it work, I'm sticking with what I trust, which is to figure out what did happen that the child we were thought was life-threatening. There's more details in my other videos about this. Then notice each time anxiety pops up, keep notes in a journal, and try to see how it could be linked to a possible fear from childhood. And then use techniques such as reframing to see that for your caretakers, it wasn't about you. Or again, body-based techniques such as role-playing those past situations, but with a new successful outcome, with performing actual physical movements to let your body have the experience that this danger is now gone and you can successfully stand up for yourself and be safe. Your particular case might be somewhat different, but this I see is the general pattern. I'm happy to help you explore and resolve this if it's something that's bothering you. All the best.